So welcome to first Facebook Live in English. Today we will talk about a very important topic, how to take care of your mental health when you are dealing with dementia. So whether you are a person living with dementia or a caregiver, the journey with the disease can lead to stress, isolation, anxiety, and psychological distress. We have some statistics. We know that 45% of care partners who provide care to people living with dementia exhibit symptoms of distress. We also know, according to estimates by the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, it is up to 40 or even 50% of people with dementia who will experience depression at some point in their journey. So today we are very lucky to have with us Shaliza Kapadei. Good morning, Shaliza.
Good morning.
Shaliza is first link nurse at Alzheimer's Society sur Roi. And today we will talk about some common difficulties that people with Alzheimer's disease and their caregiver can face during their journey. We will give you some strategies and advice to deal with those difficulties. And we will also talk about resources and services that can help you at your Alzheimer's Society. Before we start, a small reminder that during this Facebook Live, you can ask questions at any time by writing in the comments. And I will check the comments very often. So really don't hesitate to participate and ask questions, and we will be very happy to answer. So to begin with, Shaliza, can you tell us what your role is at the Alzheimer's Society of sur Roi?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So I'm Shaliza, like Lotan said, I am the first link nurse at the Alzheimer's Society sur Roi. I work in counseling and education. So to go over exactly what our services are, give you a better idea, we offer in-person, telephone, and even online consultations. We're there to give advice and counseling for people living with dementia, as well as their loved ones and anybody who might support them, even professionals. So we offer, it can be individually, it could be the whole family together. Sometimes we can offer a counselor to the person living with dementia and another counselor to family members. We offer support groups. So I run the support groups for caregivers in Vaudreuil-Soulanges. And I also do the support groups for people living with dementia who are in the early stages and looking for their own information. We also provide caregiver trainings in English and in French. All our services are in English and in French, by the way. So our caregiver trainings are to talk about specific themes week to week. So what is Alzheimer's? What is dementia? How can we help the person maintain their autonomy? How can we improve our communication with the person living with dementia? You know, when we see changes in symptoms and behaviors, how do we address them? How do we adapt to them? Keeping the person, again, autonomous in their activities of daily living and helping provide the appropriate assistance depending on where they are in their disease. And also how to, kind of like we're talking about today, how to take care of yourself as a caregiver throughout the disease. So, so we're really there for people throughout the progression of their disease, from the early stages to the middle stages to the later stages. Our Alzheimer's Society also offers respite services. So it can be in-home respite, somebody who goes to stay and show activities and provide cognitive stimulation to the person living with dementia while giving a break to the caregiver whose role has been getting bigger and bigger over time. And we also provide activity centers. So really, no matter where you are in your diagnosis or wherever the person you're accompanying is in their diagnosis, whether you're, again, the person with the disease or a family member or a friend or a professional, you can come to us. We also provide a standard professional training to all professionals that's been standardized by the Federation of Alzheimer's Societies of Quebec. So there's really a variety of services.
Thank you, Shaliza. And you often talk with people living with dementia and their loved ones who are going through situations that are upsetting. For example, when they have just been diagnosed. What advice do you give to help them?
Mhm. So one of the biggest challenges that I see for people, and again, this is throughout the disease, is a tendency to isolate yourself. And this goes for the person living with dementia, and it goes for often their primary caregiver, to withdraw and think that you have to do it alone. And people don't always know what help is out there. So really, the first thing that I advise anybody is, if you're going through this, or even if you don't have a diagnosis yet, we do offer pre-diagnosis services to help you talk about your concerns, right? Like, all our services, they're confidential, they're private, so you can reach out to us first, you know? I also, once you have your diagnosis, we encourage people to, at their own pace, but eventually, to talk about it. Share it with your loved ones, share it with the people in your immediate community, because that can help them know what you need and start to normalize it a little bit. We still have a lot of stigma and taboo surrounding Alzheimer's and dementia. So, that's something that, we're currently undoing, but it's still kind of there. So again, do it at your own pace. If you want to start by talking to a professional or talk to family, that's really your prerogative, but don't do it alone. You really do not have to do it alone. Oh, Lorraine, you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you. So we have a first question by Rita de la Roqueta, who is asking, where can we get these services you are talking about?
Okay. So there is an Alzheimer's Society that covers you wherever you are in Quebec. We are 20 Alzheimer's societies in all. I'm in the Sur-Roi region. So my society covers Beauharnois-Salaberry, Vaudreuil-Soulanges, Châteauguay-Roussillon, and the Haut-Saint-Laurent, right? But really, wherever you are, you're covered. There is somebody for you to call. You can find us easily online, and today we actually have more and more referral program, so that talk to your doctor, talk to any professional in your life, and they can actually refer you directly. But you can also call us yourselves. And if ever you call, don't panic. If you call the wrong society and you're not sure where to call and you find a number, call us. We will send you to the right place. So don't be shy.
And you can call at any time at the Federation of Alzheimer's Societies, and we will direct you towards the right society as well. You can also go on our website, and we have a page where you can find your regional society. You just need to enter your postcode, and then it directs you, it gives you the contact of your Alzheimer's Society. So really don't hesitate to call us, any of us, and we will direct you to the right place. So Shalisa, based on your experience, do people come for help early enough in their journey when they need it? Or do they often come when they are really exhausted already? Why is it important to ask for help?
Yeah, so this is an issue that's very persistent and starts with diagnosis. Only half of people are actually in Quebec are actually diagnosed at the beginning of the disease, which, we're trying to, again, undo this. We're trying to do a lot more awareness in our campaigning to get an early diagnosis. As soon as you see the first signs, consult your doctor, right? And sometimes it's, we're afraid of that news, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes we have things like memory loss, and it might be very mild and potentially reversible. That's what we call the mild neurocognitive disorder. Sometimes it's another health problem that's out of control, but if we treat that, again, it could be reversible. If ever it isn't, though, and we really are talking about full-blown Alzheimer's disease, in the mild stages, that's when we can treat it best. So the sooner you obtain medication, the more you can slow down symptom progression and maintain your independence more and for longer. So right away, talk about your doctor. If you're not quite there yet, again, you can come to us first and we can give you some information to help you unpack what goes into getting a diagnosis. Even when people are diagnosed, though, they don't always access services right away. And sometimes it's because they don't know what's out there. And again, that's part of why we're trying to do more awareness, not just for early diagnosis, but early services, right? And like I said, there's a variety of services. Maybe you don't quite need help at home yet, but you have some questions and you only had 10 minutes with the doctor and not everything got out. So we're there for that. We're there to help demystify, unpack what the diagnosis means, and also to help you find strategies for maintaining your autonomy at home. Again, when you get an Alzheimer's diagnosis or another type of dementia diagnosis, don't just lose your autonomy and your independence like that. There's a lot that you can do to help adapt and stay independent and stay at home for as long as possible. So that's something that we can help you do, is find those strategies, find what's a right fit for you, the right tools, the right resources, and also to help you plan long term. Sometimes we're very afraid of the unknown, right? We want plan A to work. And we have a lot of dread about what if plan A doesn't work. So sometimes, and again, you never know how you're going to progress. You never know how an individual is going to progress or how long it will take, right? So sometimes we have this fear of the unknown because you can't tell what it's going to be. But if you make a plan, you make your plan B, you make your plan C. Again, whether you're a person living with dementia or a caregiver, it kind of helps, again, de-dramatize what that might look like. You feel reassured that you have a plan in place with your family, so we say family planning in a different way. And if you can take that and you can put it away and it's there if you need it, and you can move on with your life today. And as the person with dementia, especially, the sooner you do this while you're still fully able to express yourself and navigate the options, well, that's where you're going to get to have more choice. So it's a way of empowering yourself long term too.
Thank you, Shalisa. So we know that being a caregiver can sometimes be rewarding, but it's often a source of stress and fatigue. What signs should alert the person that it is time to ask for support?
One of the big ones I see in my work is loss of sleep. If you are no longer getting restorative sleep, or you're up all night because the person living with dementia is up all night, that's a sign that something needs to give now, right? If you're feeling constant fatigue during the day, or non-specific stress, or just this sense of dread, and it's like you're stressed but you're not sure why exactly in this moment, that's a sign that burnout's coming up, right? Burnout is a huge risk for caregivers of people living with dementia, more so than for other types of caregivers even. So, if you see that you're feeling hopeless, or you're getting sick more often and you're just drained, we want to, that's like really a sign that we're past the point even of needing more help, maybe in the home or just support. So when you see the signs of burnout, give us a call. And just to mention that, I talked about our services, right? But if ever there are other services you need, let's say you need help with transportation or Meals on Wheels, we will point you to the right direction. We will let you know who your local CLSC is and what services are provided through them as well. So really, you can call us when you have any kind of need. And even if it's something that we can't help you address directly, we'll point you in the right direction. If you get one message today from all the one key message, don't be shy. Doesn't hurt to call.
That's right. Shalisa, we often hear about ambiguous loss and grief. What is it, and what would be your top tips for dealing with it better?
Yeah, we tend to talk about grief as something like, that occurs at the death of the person, right? but people, not only caregivers, but the person themselves, the person living with dementia themselves, can feel this sense of loss and grief in terms of the loss of their identity, their self-worth, their independence as the person with dementia who sees their cognitive capacities changing. The caregiver also, your relationship is changed. You're a wife, you're a daughter or a son or a husband or a brother, and now you're also in this caregiver role, and it becomes hard to balance, and you kind of feel that personal relationship being trumped by that now caregiver role. So it's important to, again, isolating yourself is one of the great dangers of, letting that role completely dominate you. Whereas if you share that role as a caregiver, right, it kind of, you get to be more of the wife, the husband, the sister, the daughter, the son, So again, my advice to people is, again, break the isolation. The person living with dementia as well. Sometimes, it's important to, we know that things like your social life and everything are very, very important for delaying progression. We know that people who have healthy, active lifestyles and, good social lives, you don't have to be a party animal out till 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not what we mean. But maintaining activities outside of the home can help, balance that. You still have a life, and always staying connected to your story. Again, I see a sense of a loss of identity, when the person is diagnosed, and it's your life story still belongs to you, right? You are not your diagnosis, and everything that's happened to you up until this point, everything you've lived through your life, that's who you are, and you are still that person. You are that person with a diagnosis of dementia, but you are first and foremost that same person, right? And for caregivers too, when we see our loved one progress into disease, and I do have it in my family as well, it's important to reconnect with that identity that you've always had with that person. And that can be through activities. It's important to have activities together. It can be through reminiscing together, even when dementia progresses and it's harder to communicate, it is still possible, right? And sometimes, maybe it's harder to connect with that person, but you can connect with them. They are in there, no matter where you are in the disease. So it's important to have those activities together. But, even when we really love it, let's talk couples for a second, you really love each other, right? But you need time apart normally, right? Like it's normal for couples to have time apart. And sometimes what happens when you isolate as a couple, when one of the people is living with dementia, you kind of lose those activities with the rest of your social network. So it's important to maintain that. And again, we offer respite stimulation services. A lot of the Alzheimer's Societies of Quebec offer those kinds of services. And again, the idea isn't just it's not just respite for the caregiver to go do their activities. It's also creating more activities for the person with dementia who's progressing, that they still have their own activities that belong to them. So that sense of identity, both together, whether you're a couple or a mother-daughter, father-daughter, father-son, it's important to maintain that identity, but also your individual identities. So those are some ways that you can do that.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Lita. It's a little bit off topic, but I think it's an important question. She's asking us, her mother is 97 years old and is showing the first signs of dementia. And she's wondering, can she get help, or can she start the process with evaluation? Do you think, can she call the Alzheimer's Society and have
Absolutely.
some answers?
Give us a call. We actually provide a guide on obtaining a diagnosis, and we can talk it out with you, talk about the steps. Your mother, she's having her own questions about it. She can come in and maybe help, again, de-dramatize a little bit, talk about the advantages of getting a diagnosis and starting to address that fear that's often with it from the beginning, right?
Thank you.
Try and help balance.
So beyond stress and fatigue, what can lead a caregiver to ask for help?
Okay. Like I said, sometimes it's knowing that the services are there, but that's getting better. Um, the biggest one that's like a personal factor that I see with my clients is feeling like I'm betraying the person by asking for help. And it goes both ways too, right? Sometimes I have people with dementia who, sometimes they feel not heard, but they're afraid to talk about it even in a support group because they're so grateful to their caregiver, right? That like, oh, I don't want to complain about my situation. And again, that it tends to be more the caregiver, like, oh, I don't want to treat my loved one as a burden. They're not a burden. And that's true, they're not a burden, right? But there are certain needs that come with a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and it's okay to share those responsibilities, to share that assistance, right? I always say, you're born with one brain and one body to live one life, and even then it can be a bit of a challenge, right? Life is a challenge without an Alzheimer's diagnosis in the family, right? So when somebody requires more and more assistance, it's important, again, that that doesn't all fall on one person to provide the help, right? So again, those feelings of betraying the person, what you're really doing, again, is empowering yourselves to better live with this, increase both people, a person with dementia and their caregivers, quality of life, independence, uh, social life and activities. Like it's, that's what the services are there for. They're to help you and maintain and prevent burnout. And that's another problem is sometimes people think that like, oh, I only, there's so many people who are in need and really I'm fine and I'm stressed out, but it's really not that bad. And it's only when I'm at the end of my rope that I should be asking for services. That's, we got to undo that idea, right? The idea of these services isn't to treat burnout, it's to prevent burnout and help maintain the person with dementia in the home in a way that's balanced and healthy for them and their caregiver, right? So you don't have to wait till you're completely burnt out and, like we say in French, à terre, floored by your responsibilities and, crying every day. You don't have to wait to be at that point to get help.
Yes, absolutely. We had a question before the live from Ruth. She's living in a nursing home and she's feeling worried for her friends who have Alzheimer's, and she's wondering how can she help as a friend?
Okay, so you can go up to her and be honest. Sometimes the easiest way is when the person themselves names a difficulty. So often if you notice somebody's having issues with their memory, sometimes they'll say it outright, like, oh, I'm feeling so forgetful lately, or oh, I missed an appointment again, or oh, I missed the activity. And you can be like, yeah, how are you doing with that? Or sometimes, if they don't open the door, you can say like, hey, well, I was listening to this seminar, and you can be super casual about it. If you're worried about the person not accepting, you could be like, hey, I was listening to this seminar online, and they were talking. Did you know that there's all these services for people with dementia right now? And they're talking about early stages. Like it can be very mild, and it can be treated, and that could be a good in, right, to help encourage the person. It depends really on what your relationship is with them. If you have an open relationship and you can just say like, hey, I noticed you weren't there at an activity the other day, or, have you talked to your doctor about your memory? And you can be open. So there are different styles depending on your relationship, right? Again, you can give them our number, you can call together. You could say, hey, me too. I'm curious about this. I'm curious about Alzheimer's prevention and all of that. And I was thinking of asking for a consultation for myself. Would you like to go together? And again, we do offer, information on prevention. It's true, right? So it never hurts to give us a call if you have any kind of questions about it. So going together with a person, that's a good way of encouraging them.
Thank you. What are the 3 most common tips you give to help caregiver improve their quality of life?
Yeah, So we often, I hear from caregivers themselves, it's like, oh, I have to be patient. And, and I find myself getting impatient, but I need to be patient. And, yeah, okay, patience is important, but it's important to be patient with yourself as well, right? And that's why we talk about balancing our role as a caregiver and the rest of our identity, right? You have to be realistic. We can't be on 24/7, right? You have your own needs, and we always use the metaphor of when you're in a plane and the oxygen mask come down, even if you have a child next to you, what do we say? Put your oxygen mask on first, right? You can't, even when we're devoted to our loved ones and we would give everything for them, it doesn't quite work like that. You are not a bottomless pit of energy. It's important to be able to restore your own energy to address your own needs and your own health, both mental and physical, right? So be kind to yourself. That's what empathy is. It's loving people as much as we love ourselves, eh? So you have to love yourself in the first place. If you want to be equipped to help your loved one, even if you're completely selfless that way, well, you have to have fuel in the car. You got to have gas in the car to be able to do it. So that's the first thing. Be patient and realistic with yourself. It's okay to have your own needs. It's normal. The other thing I recommend sometimes is sometimes we talk about the primary caregiver, and they take a lot of responsibilities on them, or even a person with dementia, they try to tough it out very long time without talking to their loved ones because they don't want to worry them, you know and for the caregiver, we talked about feelings of betrayal, so they don't necessarily ask the people around them for help, right? And sometimes that's how isolation happens too, is when the people around us don't know what to say. They might withdraw because they're like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing, so I just won't do anything, right? But it's not, sometimes people, they would want to help, they just don't know how. So sometimes asking for help from the person's other loved ones or your loved ones, normally they want to be there for you. Just sometimes people need concrete instructions, right? you know um I need help with the groceries, or this diagnosis has been hard on me and I'd like to go out to the movies, or I know a person, they really miss going out to the movies, but I could really use a break. Do you think that's something you'd like to do with them? So sometimes asking for concrete, not just asking for help, but asking for help in concrete ways, in specific ways, can help re-knit your connections with the people around you. And we asked for 3 tips. So my third tip is, and I'm plugging our services. I'm going to do it. It's because I believe in them. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in our services. Not only consulting to get services from the beginning, just to know what's out there, but joining a support group. So for the person living with dementia and caregivers, sometimes, you talk to professionals and you get advice, but nothing will normalize what you're going through more than talking with other people who are going through something similar, right? And we're talking about caregivers, but I do want to talk about the person living with dementia a little bit more here. Sometimes, you're surrounded by people who love you and are helping you. And, they're great and they're there for you, but they don't actually know what it is to be in your shoes, right? Talking to somebody who is in your shoes can do a lot. And even if you haven't talked with your family yet, talking in a safe space with other people who know what you're going through, who them too, maybe they can repeat themselves or forget a word, it's a safe space where you can start unisolating yourself. I'm pretty sure that's the wrong way of saying that, but breaking your isolation. And it's the same thing for caregivers, right? Sometimes we think, oh my God, I'm not doing it right. I haven't done the right things. I don't know what to expect. And then you come to a support group and you see people who might be at the beginning of that journey like you, and you might see people who are further along. And you get to have answers, not just from professionals, but who are people who are living in it now. I'm worried about long-term care one day. Well, that's something I've just gone through with my parent or spouse. I don't know if I'm ready to take services and, oh, well, I did, and it helped me so much. And you again start to normalize. So I think that is maybe the most important service we offer, is those support groups, so that, you're not just getting supported by a professional, but you're supporting each other as people living with dementia, as people who are living as caregivers.
Thank you, Shalisa. We have a question regarding the cost for services. I don't know it is in
Oh, God.
Leroy.
Sorry. Our services are free. Oh my God, yes. Our services are free. Really, the only fee we have is when people come to this activity center and want to take a lunch. It's the Meals on Wheels lunch, so you have to pay their fee. It's like $7 maybe per meal. So no, all of our services are free.
Yes,
So
I know that
zero.
maybe in some local societies, respites can have a cost attached to it.
Depending on area, it's not our
Yes.
case, but it can vary, but it's never a high cost, right?
No, and
We're
it's
not a
never
private
like
company.
it should never be a barrier. So if it's a problem for you, then you can always call and discuss it with them.
Yeah. And there are there are different forms of financial assistance for people living with dementia and just seniors in general. So if ever financial resources are a concern for you, there's not just us. We can give you some information, but there are a lot of services to the public for that right now. Even in our area, I know we're in tax season. There are free tax clinics, usually through our Centre d'Action Bénévoles and stuff like that. Again, if this is a concern for you, like I said, whatever it is, give us a call and we'll give you the resources. There are resources there.
Thank you very much, Shalisa. I see that we don't have other questions, but some people are saying thank you for replying to that question, and they will definitively give us a call. So that's very encouraging. So you will be able to find the recording of this event on the Facebook page of the Federation of Quebec Alzheimer's Societies, as well as on our YouTube channel. And if you want to contact your local Alzheimer's Society for help, you can find your society on www.alzheimerquebec.ca, or you can call our number, which is at the Federation, which is 1-888-636-6473. It's a toll-free number, or you can really call the society of your region directly. It's really up to you. So thank you very much for everybody who has participated today. Thank you very much for your questions as well. We will put the recording on our Facebook page, and we encourage you to call us if you have any questions. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day. Happy spring.